Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and I am humbled and honored, as always, to have you guys here being a part of today and this show as we talk about all of our favorite things, movies and television and all that kind of good stuff with fellow film and television fans. That's all you guys here watching today. Special hello to everybody watching live in the chat board, of course, doing this show live as I do just about every single day. And I got a whole bunch of stuff here I'm going to talk about. A little bit of a special day today. I am going to talk about one item in the world of movie news, and then I'm going to go over to the emails and topics that you guys have sent in to me, but more specifically, all the topics and emails I'm taking today are from my Patreon supporters. So my Patreon supporters, I'm highlighting all of your topics and questions that you guys sent in here today. Now, after I get through the emails and topics and questions, I'm going to go over to the live viewers, and I'm going to take a bunch of time and save it for the live viewers to send in live questions. How do you send in live questions? It's real simple. If you're watching live, just make sure you're following me and tweet me at John Campea. Just start a tweet with at John Campea and fire in your question, and I'm going to save some time near the end of the show. Maybe you'll see your tweet pop up here at the bottom of the screen. Now, I mentioned earlier that, of course, the bulk of the show is taking the email topics and questions. How do you get an email and a topic on the John Campea Show? It's simple. Just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. Send in your questions, and this is important, guys. Make sure you put the word topic. Put the word topic in the subject line, or else I simply won't see your question. And also important, of course, as always, keep the email to 90 words or less. Otherwise, I'm just not going to read it because I wouldn't even be able to fit it on the screen, even if I wanted to. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's get on to subject number one, which is the one subject we have today before we get to the emails. And that is, of course, the big news that dropped last night. Chuck star and Thor the Dark World and Thor Ragnarok star Zachary Levi, ladies and gentlemen. It is official now. We've been asking for a while who's going to be Shazam. It is going to be Chuck star Zachary Levi. Of course, now we found out a long time ago that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was, of course, going to be Black Adam. We found that out like 4 years ago, and still nothing. Anyway, but what we have not known is who's going to be Shazam. We now know who's going to be Shazam. It's going to be Zachary Levi. Now, I mentioned this in a video I did yesterday, but I mean, if any of you are like me, my reaction, I think a lot of people probably have the same reaction I did. My reaction to this whole Zachary Levi thing was, first of all, total shock and surprise, because that is not a name I saw coming. If you asked me to take a guess and list 15 people that I would guess they might go out and get for Shazam, Zachary Levi would not have been one of those names. However, upon thinking about the name, it's like, you know what? No, I wouldn't have guessed that he'd be one of the guys they're going for, but damn right this is a good casting, especially when you consider that the director of Shazam, David F. Sandberg, the guy who directed Lights Out, he said recently, about a month ago, that this is going to be number one, the most lighthearted of the DC movies so far. Secondly, he said, it really is going to focus on this boy, Billy, now inhabiting the body of not just a man, but a man with godlike powers. And what's that going to be like? And when you take that into consideration, and you think about it in those terms, and you're thinking, okay, we need a guy who's just physically big, and Zach, by the way, is pushing 6'4". He's listed at 6'3". I've met Zach on a number of occasions. I'm telling you, I'd be shocked if he's not 6'4". Anyway. So Zach is a physically big guy. If you saw him in like Dark World, you notice he's a lot bigger of a guy than he was when he was in Chuck. He's packed on a lot of muscle, and I saw him again recently, and I was kind of taken aback by how physically big he's getting. He's actually packing on muscle at this point. But anyway, so when you consider the type of movie that director David F. Sandberg is talking about doing, and you figure we need a lead, a guy who can carry this movie, who can embody all the charm, innocence, and enthusiasm that a 13-year-old boy, depending on how, they might make Billy 16. I don't know if they're going to make Billy 8 years old or 17 years old. I have no idea at this point. But let's, for argument's sake, just pick the arbitrary number of 13. If you want to get an actor who can actually carry a film, and this dude carried a television franchise for years, if you want to get a guy who can be your lead and carry a film, you want a guy that can be physically big, you want a guy who can really act, who can really communicate the optimism, enthusiasm, naivety maybe, and just pure outlandishness of a 13-year-old boy while in a man's body all at the same time, you'd be hard-pressed to find many names that would be more perfect for this than Zachary Levi. And this is a great example about why when people ask me, John, who should play this role? I just go, hey man, as long as it's a really talented actor, I'm okay. Zachary Levi is a name none of us would have guessed, but he's a really good actor, and when you really think about it, it's a great name. Now, so I'm really excited about it. Now, not surprisingly, a lot of the comments that we've been hearing about this are excitement, enthusiasm. People really like Zach Levi. Some people have never heard of him because they never watched Chuck. But one of the common questions has been the physical size. Because, you're playing Shazam. You got to be a big dude. But again, I am telling you, I've seen this guy in person. He has been packing on muscle, and he's got the body frame for it. I mean, at 6'4", and you can just tell by looking at his bone structure, the dude's got the body frame to pack on a lot of muscle very convincingly. So let's see how that all goes. Again, the body mass isn't the most important thing. The most important thing is he's an extremely talented actor who can pull off a lot of different things. And I think he's going to be great for this. So listen, maybe you guys got some thoughts or comments you're going to want to throw in at the end when I take your live tweets. Throw some things in there. And what are your thoughts on Zachary Levi becoming our new Shazam? Drop your comments below. All right, let's move on now to the first email question of the day. And the first email question of the day comes to us from one of my Patreon supporters, Kyle Garrett, who writes, "Hey John, love the show. Thank you very much. Newsweek did a story in September stating that Netflix only has 43 streaming movies made before 1970. And it pointed out the general difficulty of finding older titles on streaming services due to copyright issues. Do you think this problem will get resolved before we convert completely to streaming services, or will a lot of old movies become unobtainable as a result?" Well, thanks a lot for the question, Kyle. Fantastic question for those of us who love some good old-fashioned classic cinema. Now, I've been talking a while, and a number of people have asked me questions recently about, how much longer are we going to have physical media? How much longer are we going to have physical Blu-ray discs or physical whatever the next type of disc are? How much longer? Because really it seems like streaming is already starting to take over. I know somebody like myself, years ago, I stopped buying physical Blu-rays. The only time I've bought Blu-rays in recent years are on a couple of occasions when there were some really key bonus features on them that weren't available digitally. So those are the only couple times I've bought Blu-rays. Otherwise, I haven't bought Blu-rays in years. I buy all my movies digitally. And, I've mentioned before, but like for me, the advantage, and my digital service of choice happens to be the Google Play Store. But for me, the fact that they take up no physical space, they're right there at the push of a button. I can watch my movies anytime from home, or if I'm on an airplane and I just pop open my phone and start watching my movie collection on my phone. My movie collection is anywhere I am. And it's just a much more easy, convenient thing. Plus, for the industry, the advantage for the industry, and we talked about this before, is that you don't have to physically burn discs. You don't have to physically print discs. You don't physically have to package them and get cover art and then wrap them in shrink wrap and then load them into boxes and take those boxes and put them on planes and ships and trucks to distribute them all across America, to get them into the physical brick and mortar stores like Best Buy or what have you, where people then have to go pick them up and buy them and stuff like that. If somebody wants to buy the movie, they have to walk to the store and get them. This way, the studios just go, click, upload, done. That was a good day. Whoo, that was a hard day of work. And you don't have to drive over to Walmart or Best Buy to go get your movie. You want to watch Deadpool? Great. Google Play, click, and then I got it. Now I own Deadpool on anyway. So there are advantages. But I also have a lot of friends of mine who are dearly love the physical media. They love collecting physical media. That's great. But anyway, going to this news article, even somebody like me, who I'm a huge advocate for, convert everything to digital, convert everything to streaming. Even I have to say, this is a problem. This whole thing about the older classic films, even the ones that aren't classic, just because a movie isn't super popular from the 1950s doesn't mean it's not valuable and we shouldn't still have it. You know what I mean? This question of getting all these older movies, converting their rights to digital, and getting these things available for streaming services. And remember, Netflix isn't the only streaming service. Just because there's an older film that's not on Netflix doesn't mean it's not available somewhere else. But it is an industry-wide problem. I have a feeling, though, these are issues that will be resolved. You're absolutely right. It is an issue that must be resolved before we can do a full conversion to digital. I do believe it will happen. And again, if I had to guess, I'm going to take a wild guess it's going to happen within the next 3 years. Sorry, next 5 years. So, but what do you think about all that? Jump into the comment section. Leave me your thoughts. All right, let's move on now to the next topic. And the next topic today comes to us again from one of my Patreon supporters, Robert Coleman, who writes, Steven Spielberg's next film, The Post, is scheduled to be released in December. With November about to be here in a matter of days, when do you think we will finally see the first trailer? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And you know what? We were asking this question, too, about the upcoming Daniel Day-Lewis movie called The Phantom Thread. Remember, it's like, checking the watch. It's Phantom Thread opens in December. We're almost in November and no trailer yet. And like the day after we talked about that topic, wouldn't you know it, a trailer for the Phantom Thread dropped, which is great. And I love that trailer, by the way. I still can't believe it's going to be Daniel Day-Lewis's last movie. But anyway, we'll talk about that another time. So here we have now coming the greatest filmmaker in the history of cinema, Steven Spielberg. His next movie that he's directing, The Post. Now, for those of you who don't know much about The Post, here's the summary. A cover-up that spanned 4 U.S. presidents pushed the country's first female newspaper publisher and a hard-driving editor to join an unprecedented battle between journalists and government, all inspired by true events. Now, clearly, I don't care which side of the political spectrum you fall on, this is clearly a very relevant issue to today. And listen to the cast of this movie, okay? Now, first of all, you got what I consider to be the greatest filmmaker of all time, and Steven Spielberg directing it, right? You got Tom Hanks. You got Meryl Streep. You got Alison Brie. You got Bruce Greenwood. You got Bradley Whitford. You got Zach Woods. Bob Odenkirk is in it. I mean, these are all just to name a few. You got Sarah Paulson in it. This is an all-star cast. Like, this is a Hall of Fame cast. Especially when you're talking about Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep being in a movie together, being directed by Steven Spielberg, by the way. I mean, this is just insane. And the subject matter is sharp and relevant to today. And it's based on a true story. And I got to tell you, I cannot wait to watch this film. But the reality is this. This film, The Post, is not going to do anywhere near the box office business that, say, a Justice League is going to make, that a Thor Ragnarok is going to make. And, of course, nothing even close to what Star Wars The Last Jedi is going to make. But here's what I think they're doing. This movie, The Post, this is the type of movie that you don't need to have trailers out 4 months in advance for. You don't need that. What I think they're doing, and I have not been told this by anybody, this is just speculation on my part. What I think they're doing is waiting for some of the huge buzz of Thor Ragnarok and Justice League to die off a bit. Like maybe wait till like a week before Justice League opens. Or maybe even wait until the day after Justice League opens. Maybe wait until like the main swell of the buzz for these 2 monster films coming out, Thor Ragnarok and Justice League, with the comic book craze and everything. Wait till that passes a little bit and then get the trailer out for that. Because again, this is not one of those movies that requires like a 6-month marketing campaign. It might be more effective having a 1-month heavy push targeted at true film fans, not just the comic book movie fans, but true film fans overall. Not that comic book movie fans aren't true fans, but I think we'll all agree that a lot of people who are comic book movie fans in general just kind of dig comic book movies and not necessarily into everything. A lot of comic book movie fans are also what I would call true film fans, that they like all genre of films. So they're going to wait until the craze of these big comic book movies pass, and then they're going to get into that. At least that's what I suspect. That's what I suspect. Either way, I can't even express how excited I am for this film. I think that I just cannot wait. Just the talent you have behind the camera, in front of the camera, the true story that it's based on, all being a relevant topic for today. I think this has just like amazing. This might have Oscar potential. We'll have to wait and see, of course. All right. Let's move on now to the next topic. And the next topic today, of course, comes to us from one of my Patreon supporters, Dylan Johnson, who writes, "Sup, John? Doesn't most money from blockbuster films come from repeat business? Won't increasing the price for those films decrease repeat business immensely, thus decreasing revenue? Who's thinking this stuff up?" Okay, now, for those of you who don't know what Dylan's talking about, a story came out the other day, and I did a video on this, about how Regal Cinemas is about to start testing in 2018 demand-based ticket pricing. Okay? Now, basically, What that means is movies that people aren't going to see, we reduce the ticket price of that a bit. The movies that everybody's going to go see, we increase the price of those tickets. Now, that's the basics of it. It's a little more complex than that. There's more to it than just that. But just your Coles Note version, that's the basic idea. Demand-based ticket pricing will be the concept of lowering the price of movie tickets for the movies that people aren't going to see, increasing the ticket prices for the movies that people are going to see. Now, I did a fairly angry video about this, about why this is not just screwing over the fans and screwing over moviegoers. This is the industry screwing over itself, which I think actually gets me more angry. It said that they're screwing the industry as a whole. And here was my basic premise of that. I'm going to sum up my 15-minute video in like 30 seconds here. So here's my basic problem with that. The main problem that the movie theater and the movie-going industry is facing right now is less people are going to the movies. That's the problem. Fewer people year over the last number of years are actually going out to the movies. That's the problem, and that's the trend, and that's the thing that's going to kill the movie industry if they don't fix the problem. This issue of demand-based ticket pricing is not addressing how do we get more people to come to the theaters. Because the people who don't go to the theaters all that much, when they do come to the theaters, they're going to see the big popular movies. And those are the movies that Regal and probably other movie theater chains as well eventually are going to increase the ticket prices for. The challenge is to get people back into the movie theaters. The way you do that is not by increasing the ticket prices of the movies those people want to see most. You have to be a global class moron to not recognize that. That's the big problem. That's great that you're lowering the prices a bit on the movies that people aren't going to see, but those aren't the movies that are going to get the average film goers out there that aren't coming to the movie theaters anymore. Those aren't the movies that they're going to come back to the theaters for. Those people that you're trying to get come back to the movies, they're going to go see Avengers. They're going to go see Star Wars. They're going to see Justice League. They want to go see that new big Steven Spielberg film, whatever it is. Not necessarily The Post, but they want to come. They're going to go see the next Titanic. They want to go see the next Avatar. Those are the films that you're most likely to get those people back into the movie theaters with. And those are the movies that you want to increase the ticket prices for? If you don't see the fallacy in that logic, I don't know how to help you. I simply don't. Now, I also raised the point in my particular video saying that, look, some people at Regal and other movie theater industry people might say, but John, going to concerts uses demand-based ticket pricing. The more popular the band, the bigger the stage, the higher the ticket prices. But John, sporting events, the more popular the sport, the more popular the team, the bigger the venue, the higher the ticket prices. We're just doing what they do. Yeah, but the difference is that live concerts and live sporting event stuff, they're selling a different product than you are. Because as I said in my video before, if I want to see a U2 concert, I can't get Bono and The Edge to come on over to my place and Larry and Adam to come to my place and play a concert for me in my living room live. If I want to see live, I got to get out of my house, drive down to Angel Stadium, and then watch them there. If I want to watch my beloved New England Patriots play some football, I ain't going to get Tom Brady into my house. I got to go watch it there. You, movie theater industry, you are selling a product that people have a reasonable facsimile of at home. Sitting in a chair, watching entertainment on a screen. They can do that at home. So you are not in the same, don't try to compare your situation to that of concert going and to that of the sporting industry. You are in, unfortunately, a different paradigm. And you have a different challenge ahead of you. You got to convince people. And the movie going industry is my favorite thing in the world. I love going to the movies more than anything else. More than anything. Probably more than sex. Shh. But I mean, I love going to the movies and going to a theater and the lights go down and a 40-foot screen and giant sound and filled in a room with hundreds of other strangers, but we're all together as film fans, laughing together and cheering together and feeling pain together. I love it. I love the movie going experience, and you're messing it up. You're messing it up. So what I believe it was Dylan. Let me just pull up the question again. What Dylan is basically saying is like, hey, and with these big blockbusters, when you're talking about Avengers making $2 billion or wanting to make $2 billion, if you're talking about Star Wars The Force Awakens making $2 billion, you don't get those types of big numbers from a lot of people simply going to watch a movie once. You get those types of numbers from people going and then going again and then going again. And when they go for the fourth time, they're bringing other friends with them who haven't seen the film yet. That's how you get a movie to $1.2 billion. That's how you get a movie to $2 billion. It's not getting everybody to go see it once. It's getting everybody to go see it multiple times. And again, as Dylan is pointing out in his question, you're damn right. Increasing the ticket prices for those movies, the ones that most likely are to get repeat business, is completely counterintuitive. And so I have no idea what type of narcotics they're smoking over there and what type of influences they're under, or who is blackmailing them, or who's holding their second cousin hostage in, I don't know, some European country somewhere. I don't know, but this is not logical thinking. This is counterintuitive. This is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard of. This does not address the issue of getting people to come back to the movie theaters. And any proposition that doesn't directly address that issue of getting people to come back to the theaters is just wasted time. And all you're doing is wasting time. And you can say to me, but John, well, we'll make a 5% more profit that one particular year. That's great. I want you to make profit. But the problem is you're hurting your long-term prospects. So anyway, yes, it's a bad idea. And yes, doing this will also hurt the idea of repeat business. This will hurt the notion of people coming back to see a blockbuster film 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times, which is what separates a big movie, a $600 million movie, from a certified 100% blockbuster in the 1.1, 1.2 or higher billion dollar range is repeat business. And you want to make it harder for people to come back to give repeat business? Oh yeah, that's real good thinking. Nice work, Sherlock. Anyway, a little upset about that. Okay, let's move on to the next topic, which also has to revolve this whole idea of increasing ticket prices through demand-based ticket pricing. This one comes to us from my Patreon supporter, Ian, who writes, John, saw your video yesterday about the Regal screw-over. What does this mean for box office relevance? Many people use box office as a way to judge the popularity of films. That's true, we really do. Wouldn't lowering the amount of money that lesser seen films make and increasing the money that popular films make lead to box office totals that no longer are a reliable source of understanding the success of films? Well, thanks a lot for the question, man. And you know what? I'm actually going to defend them a little bit here. Now, look, whenever you look at box office total, especially over the years, there are more things to take into consideration than just the baseline ticket price of a movie. So, for example, I had a discussion with a fan the other day about, hey, Gone with the Wind, if you adjust for inflation, is actually the #1 box office movie of all time. Shouldn't we be talking about that as the most successful movie of all time? And I'm like, well, here's the thing. Inflation is only one of the elements, of the variables, if you will, that goes into understanding the box office success. And if you're going to take that variable into understanding, then you also have to take other variables into understanding. For example, today's movies, they face far more stiff competition for the entertainment dollar than movies did back in the Gone with the Wind days. Also, far fewer films came out in the day of Gone with the Wind than come out today. There are more wide release movies and global movies produced today than at any other time in history. You have the lifespan of a movie in theater today is much shorter than the lifespan of a movie back then in the Gone with the Wind days. You didn't have home entertainment systems and gaming systems like PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo Switch. Anne just bought a Nintendo Switch yesterday. She's very excited about it. So a Nintendo Switch to fight for those entertainment dollars. You didn't have those back then in the day. So my argument that I always make is, okay, if you want to take one variable into consideration, inflation price, then you can't just stop there. Then you have to take a lot of other variables into consideration as well. My argument, my thesis, if you will, is that when you really take into consideration all the variables, they tend to generally balance out. If you take all, but if you just want to pick and choose which variable you're taking into consideration and which variables you won't, you can come up with any conclusion that you want. Anyway, now fast forward to this particular topic, which is, okay, well, if only the brave costs $8 for a ticket, and It costs $12 for a movie ticket, can you really accurately compare them two in terms of success of box office? Well, yes and no. I mean, honestly, I don't really have a dead confirmed answer for that, but it's a yes and no situation because yes, well, It is going to make more money because it's got, the bigger ticket price. On the other hand, you could say, yeah, but won't only the brave sell more tickets than it would have because it's $8 instead? So you have to take the variables in consideration. Honestly, I don't know what the answer is. How reliable does gauging box office success of movies become if every movie is selling for a different ticket price? That's a really good question. I'm not sure what the answer is. I just think it's more complicated than we even think because there's a whole bunch of other variables to take into consideration. All right, guys, I'm going to take 2 more email questions. Then I'm going to go to you guys live in the chat board. Those of you who are live, start sending in your questions on Twitter. Now, before I get to the next question, I just want to remind you, of course, today, all my questions are being taken from my Patreon supporters. Let me do my commercial break here and do my daily shameless plug. You guys know I no longer work for any corporate overlords. I left the corporate overlords. I no longer take any instructions from corporations. I do my show on my own. And being able to do that is only possible because of the support of my Patreon supporters. Do me a favor. If you're somebody who enjoys my content and you spend any amount of time every month watching my content, head on over to www.patreon.com/John Campea. Get all the information there about what it means to be a Patreon supporter of mine, how being a Patreon supporter helps the content that I create, and also what benefits there are of being a Patreon supporter. And then maybe you'll decide that you want to be one of my Patreon supporters too and help make this content possible. And that would be awesome if you do. Okay, with that out of the way, let's move on now to the second to last email question today. And the second to last email question today comes to us from my Patreon supporter, Joe Zapata, who writes, John, love the show. Now let's hear it from you. Justice League versus Avengers Infinity War. Who wins at the box office overall? Okay, this is a question that I wanted to address because I think this is a question that hits on several topics that we should be discussing. First of all, let's start with just the basic answer. What's going to make more money at the box office? Justice League or Avengers Infinity War? The answer is clear and obvious. That is Justice League Infinity War. Justice League Infinity War. That's what's going to make. Can you imagine that? No, it's Avengers Infinity War will make more at the box office. I mean, even the most optimistic and diehard of DC diehard fans will tell you that Avengers Infinity War at this point, will make more money than the Justice League movie. That being said, that doesn't mean 5 years from now, when an Avengers movie and a Justice League movie come out, that Avengers will always make more money. Not at all. We're just in a particular place right now where it is clear, look, Justice League is aiming to break the $1 billion mark. That's what Justice League is aiming for. Avengers Infinity War is aiming to break the $2 billion mark. The question with Justice League is, will it crack $1 billion? I think it will crack the $1 billion club. I think it will. The question people are asking about in Infinity War is not, will it crack the $1 billion club? That's a foregone conclusion. The question is, will it crack $2 billion? I don't think it'll crack $2 billion, but it's possible. It could reach for that. So right now, we're in a scenario where clearly Avengers Infinity War will make more money than Justice League. That's obvious. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the case 5 years from now. Because look, I mentioned this on the show the other day. Wonder Woman was the first DCEU film that did the trifecta. It was a hit with audiences, with critics, and at the box office. The first DCEU film, not the first DCEU film to deserve that. Man of Steel deserved it. But it's the first DCEU film to accomplish all three. If Justice League, this new one, can also accomplish that, be a hit with the audience, be a hit with the critics, be a hit at the box office, now you're talking about 2 films back to back, and you're talking about creating momentum that could lead to a much different landscape 3 or 4 years from now. Okay, so today, yes, Infinity War will make more money than Justice League. That's fine. The question is, where will they be 3 or 4 years from now? And Justice League could do a lot to influence what that answer is going to be a few years from now. Also, it's important to understand when we're talking about what's going to make more money, Infinity War or Justice League, that's not asking which will be the better movie. I honestly don't know what will be the better movie. I just don't know. I think Justice League is going to be really good. I think, the whole thing where you've got the two talents of Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder, where both of their talents and strengths have been put into a film together, I think something pretty special could happen. I don't know it will, and maybe the movie will suck, sure, maybe Infinity War will suck, but I got a feeling Justice League's going to be pretty damn good. Fingers crossed. So we're not talking about which movie will be better. Justice League might end up being the better movie, but I still think Infinity War will probably make more money at this point. But here's the bigger thing. And I've alluded to this before, but I think it's worth bringing up because you'd be shocked how many people write to me, whether it's on Twitter or in my comments section or write to the email saying, John, which is going to make more money, Avengers or Justice League? Which is going to make more money? Here's the thing. I think it's unfair to Justice League right now to try to compare what its box office is going to be to Avengers Infinity War. It's just not fair, and then it's unrealistic. I think you are just setting yourself up for disappointment. And here's what I worry about the most. I worry that if Justice League, say, makes $1.1 billion at the box office, which I don't care what movie you are, your movie makes $1.1 billion at the box office, you're throwing the world's biggest party where you're snorting cocaine off the back of Super Bowl ring winners. I mean, you are throwing the party to end all parties if you make a movie that makes $1.1 billion. That should be considered nothing but an unprecedented success for your franchise. All right? If Justice League makes $1.1 billion, that will by far be the biggest box office take for any of the DCEU movies, smashing Batman vs. Superman, smashing Wonder Woman. It'd be several $100 million more than any of their other films have made. If Justice League makes $1.1 billion, you should damn well be happy because that's a success. And here's my fear. My fear is in with all of you guys, and I understand why you asked the question because you're film fans and you want to ask the questions. I get that. But let me caution you, to everybody who's constantly writing me and asking me, what's going to make more money, Infinity War or Justice League? What's going to make more money, Infinity War or Justice League? Let me encourage you and caution you that, look, Infinity War is going for a $2 billion total. That's what they're going for. My fear is if you start comparing what Justice League is going to make at the box office with what Infinity War is, you're setting yourself up for disappointment and you're setting Justice League up for failure. Because at that point, if it makes $1.1 billion, instead of doing what a logical person will do and look at it and go, holy crap, that's amazing. They've far exceeded anything else the DCU has done so far. They've gotten such a bigger number. They're clearly heading in the right direction. Their money-making totals are going up instead of going down. That's what our reaction should be. But what I fear is that some people, if it makes $1.1 billion, there are going to be people out there who aren't thinking logically that go, oh, well, that's a failure then. That underperformed. Well, look, maybe it underperformed if you were looking at it 5 years ago. And you were to think, okay, 5 years from now when Justice League comes out, what kind of money could it make? Maybe you would have been thinking at that time that it should make 1.8, 1.9. But the fact of the matter is we don't live 5 years ago. We live today. All right. And today we know we're not in the same situation that we were 5 years ago. Today, any logical person should look at Justice League and think, man, if that hits 1.1 billion, far exceeding any other DCEU box office total so far, making its trajectory doing this, setting up good, healthy things for the future, I'm concerned people are going to look at it and then look at Avengers Infinity War numbers and go, oh, well, Justice League clearly didn't do well. Yes, it did. If it makes one, now look, who knows? Maybe Justice League comes out and makes $600 million. And I'll be the first to say that would be disappointing. That would be considered for Justice League probably a failure. But come on, it's not going to do that. It's going to do much better than that. Anyway, so yes, Infinity War is going to make more money. Yes, Justice League could change that story 3 or 4 years from now if they keep their trajectory going this way. No, it does not mean Infinity War is going to be a better movie than Justice League, and I am totally concerned that people who keep trying to compare the two are just setting themselves up for disappointment and being unfair to Warner Brothers and Justice League. So come on, guys. It's going like, how can you celebrate Wonder Woman making just north of $800 million and then not celebrate if Justice League comes out and makes like a couple of $100 million more? Of course you should be celebrating. That would be awesome. Anyway, okay. Last question of the day before I go over to the live questions from you guys watching live. And this question comes to us from my Patreon supporter, Joe C., who writes, I can't figure out why Kylo is angry enough to drive him to the dark side. I can see he might feel abandoned to train with Luke, but I see nothing else. Even while training, he's still with family, right? Rey was also abandoned, but she had a different outlook on things. Thanks a lot for the question, man. And yes, you're right. Kylo Ren, absolutely, very angry guy. He's got a lot of issues deep down inside. He's upset. He's angry. But why is he so angry? What's making him so angry? Here's what my theory on this, okay? I think some fans are looking for the root of Kylo's anger and rage and passions being the reason he turned to the dark side. I think that's the wrong way of looking at it. I think Kylo Ren's anger and rage and passions are not what drove him to the dark side. They are the result of him going to the dark side. Remember, one of the Sith mantras is embracing anger, unleashing your hate and fear. Like embracing those things and using your hate and fear and going into those base emotions. That's the Sith way. That's the dark side way. As Yoda said, it's easier, quicker. That's what that is. What I don't think it's his anger and his rage that drove him to the dark side. I think, as Leia kind of explained between that conversation between Leia and Han in The Force Awakens, Snoke seduced him, basically. Snoke got him over to the dark side. And it was going over to the dark side that probably being a dark side acolyte was embrace your hate. Embrace your anger. Embrace the rage. Your hate makes you strong. Like all that kind of stuff, right? So again, I don't think the question is, did Kylo's hate and rage drive him to the dark side? I believe you got to flip that around. I think the hate and rage and all that kind of stuff is a result of the dark side. You know, him acting like a petulant child, which I think adds to the character. But him acting like a petulant child, that's him just embracing the Sith philosophy. Embracing his anger, embracing his temper tantrums, all that kind of stuff. That is a result. I think that's a byproduct of being Sith-ish. Now, you can say that, well, Vader wasn't like that. No, you're right. But by the time we really got to know Vader, he had come to master his hate. He still embraced his hate and his rage. He had come to master it. You're talking about Kylo Ren now. Kylo Ren is still young. He's, according to the timeline in the Star Wars lore, he's only been over on the dark side for a limited period of time. So he is in the midst of embracing all that hate and rage. I don't think he's had a chance to master that hate and rage yet at this point. So anyway, and I could be dead wrong about that. I could be completely dead wrong about that. I'm not sure, but that's just kind of the way that I view it and I see it right now. Okay, guys, pardon me. I said I would save a bunch of time to take your live questions via Twitter for those of you guys who are watching live. And I'm going to do that right now. And I'm going to start off with this first question today. And this first question today comes to us from who? It comes to us from Luis Anthony 65A, who writes, John, just saw Coco and it was beautiful. Is the Oscar for Best Animation pretty much guaranteed for it at this point? I have not seen Coco yet. I'm going to go see a press screening of it in a couple of days. But let's be honest. This year has not been great for animated films. I mean, were they talking about Despicable Me 3? And I like the Despicable Me franchise. I was disappointed with Despicable Me. A couple of the other ones as well. The Lego Batman movie probably at this point is the best one so far. So even though I haven't seen Coco yet, the fact that it's a Pixar film and I'm already hearing very good things about it probably makes it the front runner for Best Animated Film of the Year at the Oscars. But there might have to be an asterisk beside that. Like you might have to look down through the Oscar history book and come to, the Oscars of 2018, Best Animated Film, Coco, asterisk. And then you look down, what does the asterisk mean? Every other animated film that year was crap. I mean, so maybe that might have to go there. But I do think it's probably going to be considered a front runner at this point. All right, this next question comes to us from Cosmic Fart SX, Cosmic Farts, who writes, John, Thor Ragnarok box office. Well, I've already kind of made a prediction on that. Opening weekend, I'm pegging Thor Ragnarok at 125. Overall, good question. I'm not really sure. I'm going to say overall $780 million overall, which would make it a smash success, which once again just proves the point that if Justice League makes 1.1 billion, that's an even bigger success. But I'm going to put Thor Ragnarok at 780 overall. I think a lot of people are going to love it, but I also think the marketing has been kind of trippy for some people. I think there's some people out there that the marketing did not work for. So I'm going to say 125 opening weekend. I'm going to go say with 780 overall. Maybe I'm dead wrong on both. We'll have to wait and see. Let's see. RyXN8 writes, John, what are your thoughts on the new South Park game? What would you like the next one to be a parody of? Star Wars? Well, okay, I have not yet played South Park Fractured Butthole. Ann has been playing it, and I've been watching Ann play it. It's hilarious. I mean, look, if you guys played Stick of Truth, you remember how funny that, one of the funniest games I've ever played. Now we're on Fractured Butthole, and yes, that is a play on words. Fractured Butthole. It's absolutely hilarious. It's riveting. And yeah, now that you mention it, the next one should be a parody of Star Wars. I think that would be amazing. Let's see. This next one comes to us. John, do you have a top 10 worst superhero movie list? Actually, no, I don't. I mean, some films that would have to be on it. Catwoman would need to be on it. One or two of the Fantastic Four movies would probably have to be on it. I'd have to think about it, but no, I've never put together a worst 10 comic book movies of all time. Maybe I should put that list together. It's a good idea. All right. Next one comes to us from D Before B writes, John, do you think do you think we will Henry Cavill? I guess you're asking, do you think we will see Henry Cavill in Shazam? Maybe as a cameo to mentor him? It's possible. I'm not going to say it's completely out of the question, but if I had to guess, I'm going to guess no. But it's certainly an intriguing idea, and it's certainly within the realm of possibility. All right, next question comes to us from Jay Dolan74, who writes, John, if Justice League makes around $1.5 billion, will Warner Brothers stay the course of the DCU and pull back on the unrelated spin-offs like Joker? I think those can be two separate. I don't think it's an either-or situation. I think they're excited about the idea of some Elseworld one-off standalone stories. And they should be. I, as a fan, am excited about that. I'd love to see that Joker set in the 80s, a taxi driver, gritty, R-rated crime drama based on the younger career of the Joker, produced by Martin Scorsese. Come on. Who doesn't want to see that? Give me a break. Anyway. But no, if Justice League is a hit with the audience, hit with the critics, and makes $1.5 billion, then yeah, you'll see them not so much stay the course. You'll still see them make adjustments. But yes, the DCU will continue on well. Let's see. Next question comes to us. John, when will we see a movie do $300 million in the box office opening weekend? It's going to be a long time. How Star Wars The Force Awakens made 270 is beyond me, but now you're talking just about physical limitations. How many theaters are there in America? How many screens? How many seats? How many in a 24-hour day, how many possible screenings can you have in a 24-hour period in North America to hit $300 million? It becomes a question of physical limitation. So, I mean, I just don't know. We're probably several years away. I know Star Wars The Last Jedi won't do it. And Avengers Infinity War isn't going to do it. And Justice League's not going to do it. And so I can't see anything on the immediate horizon that will. So it's going to be a while. Let's see. Next one comes to us from Hen1996 Hendron, who writes, John, if the prequels didn't exist, would Disney still have bought Lucasfilm? Well, the question isn't would Disney have still bought Lucasfilm, because Disney buying Lucasfilm was a very smart business decision for several reasons. Lucasfilm is a property that fits very well in the Disney portfolio. The question is not would Disney have still bought Lucasfilm. The question becomes would George Lucas have still sold Lucasfilm? Would George Lucas have still been looking at selling it if it wasn't for the fact about the prequels? Because it was the prequels. Look, the response to the prequels hurt George Lucas very personally. And I get it. I really do. I'm sure his $4 billion will comfort him. But I think on a very personal level, it hurt him very deeply, the response that he got for the prequels. And I believe were it not for that hurt, I don't think he would have looked to separate with Star Wars. And I think there are times he regrets selling Star Wars. But so no, I don't think if it wasn't for the prequels, I don't think we ever would have seen George Lucas sell off Star Wars. Sell off Lucasfilm. I just don't think it would have happened. All right, let's take a few more here. This one comes to us from, if I can get it to come up, comes to us from Slim Jimmy, who writes, John, what if cinemas lower ticket prices slightly for each week a film is in cinema? Could that benefit customers, studios, and chains? Well, look, as long as lowering, like let's say Star Wars The Force Awakens, like my local movie theater here up the street from me is the Burbank 16, the AMC Burbank 16. The average movie going price, the average ticket for the AMC Burbank 16 is $15. Okay? So if you're suggesting like, hey, what if Star Wars Last Jedi on week 1 was $15 for a ticket, week 2 was $14 a ticket, week 3 was now $12 a ticket, week 4 was now $10 a ticket. Like if you said like each week it dropped a certain percentage, I'd be open for that as long as it doesn't just give the movie-going industry an excuse to jack up the prices for week 1. Because here's my fear. My fear would be that studios and the movie chain industries go together. Okay, yeah, we'll have a declining ticket price over time for movies. Movies start at this price. In week 2, they drop 10%. In week 3, they drop another 20%. In week 4, they drop another 20%. Like whatever. My fear, though, is that then that they would go, okay, now instead of a week 1 ticket price of $15, a week 1 ticket price is going to be $22. Yay! And then week 2 is still more expensive than week 1 would have been before we did this deal. So that's my fear. My fear is that the industry will try to bait and switch us. But so on its surface, keep movie ticket prices the way they are, but week over week start to lower the ticket price. That could encourage more people to come out to the movies. They say, okay, we'll wait till Star Wars The Force Awakens comes out. Because look, Star Wars The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi, that's going to sell out every screening no matter what. So you get your full price $15, and then some people who maybe wouldn't have gone to see Star Wars The Last Jedi by week 4 go, how? Ticket price is now just $8? Okay, yeah, I'll go see that. That could start to address the problem of getting people who aren't going to the movie theaters coming back to the movie theaters again. So that could be a really good thing. So I'd be for that. Let's see. Blake Feely is writing in, John, what do you think Adam Sandler's last good comedy was? I would say 50 First Dates. I didn't even like 50 First Dates that much. So, gosh, you know what? I can't answer that because I can't remember what order his movies came in. So I don't know, maybe Waterboy might have been his last good one. I'd have to think about it. Let's see. This one comes to us from Brent Bolin, who writes, John, with Disney adapting properties like Jungle Book, any chance of a Wizard of Oz franchise? Hey, look, we're seeing Wizard of Oz being tried all the time. We're seeing new Wizard of Oz animated stuff. We've got things like The Wiz. I mean, like, yeah, it's very, very possible we could see a new adaptation. Now, remember, there was a new Oz movie that was out just a couple years ago with James Franco, directed by Sam Raimi. It's called Oz the Great and Powerful, and it was a prequel to The Wizard of Oz, if you will. And that did okay. It didn't do gangbusters. It did all right. But, yeah, I could totally see... I mean, Disney doesn't have the rights, the movie rights to Wizard of Oz, so that would become a problem. They'd have to figure out a way to get those rights. But I could see something happening like that. Let's see. And I'll take time for one more question today. And that question will come from us from... Where did it go? There it is. A-Clean19 writes, John, now that War for the Planet of the Apes has made almost $500 million, do you think the series will continue? I don't know. I don't think so. $500 million makes it profitable, but it was an expensive movie to make. And it means the box office has gone downhill. Let me just pull up a piece of information here. What was the last one? Planet of the Apes. Okay, so the last one, I believe, was Dawn for the Planet of the Apes. Okay, Dawn for the Planet of the Apes, or Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, I should say. That movie made $710 million worldwide. You're talking about you're talking about dropping almost $200 million. And here's the really concerning part. Everybody loved Dawn for the Planet of the Apes. And War for the Planet of the Apes got really good reviews, and yet interest still declined. It still went down. What more can you do? People loved Dawn for the Planet of the Apes. And yet $200 million worth of people less came out to see it in theaters. Just domestically alone, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes made over $200 million at the domestic box office. War for the Planet of the Apes made almost more than 25% less, with $146 million at the domestic box office. And it hasn't hit $500 million yet. It's at $488 million worldwide. I'm sure it'll get to 500, but for a $150 million budget movie, with this type of franchise that's celebrated and loved, Fox has to be looking at and say, what else can we do? It's not like we did a bad job with one of the movies and we can go, okay, let's just make sure we do a better movie next time and the box office will improve. They made two really good movies back to back that the audiences and critics loved, and still the box office tanked compared to the previous one. So that's a tough sell. So right now I'm going to guess no. In this incarnation of the Planet of the Apes movies, my guess is we're probably done. I honestly don't think we're going to see another one at this point. All right, guys, that will do it for this Saturday installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Listen, don't forget, make sure you click the thumbs up button on the video. Make sure you leave a comment, leave your questions, your thoughts and your theories, your opinions in there below. And remember this, guys, we're all film fans together. Let's disagree. Let's debate. Let's argue. That's one of the fun things about being a film fan. But remember when you're doing it that we're all on the same side. We're all film fans. So let's passionately debate, but let's not, let's make sure we treat each other like we're all fellow film fans together at the same time while we're doing it. That's important. So that'll do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.